In May 2022, I traveled to the Philippines for what I thought would be a simple 3-week vacation. Fast forward 3 years later, and I'm still here. It's been a life-changing journey filled with new experiences, cultural insights, and yes, lots and lots of rice. While the experience has been mostly positive, I have also learned that living in a country long term is very different from just visiting it. And that's exactly what I want to talk about in today's video. You see, the Philippines is often portrayed as a paradise by many vloggers. And don't get me wrong, that's true in many ways. The beautiful beaches, the warm weather, and friendly locals are all real highlights. But here's the thing. Most people only see this country through the lens of a short-term tourist. They spend a few weeks here, travel around, meet amazing people, and fall in love with the place. And why wouldn't they? It's an easy place to love. But for those of us who choose to stay longer, months, or even years, there are some realities that start to set in. Things that you don't always hear about in those travel vlogs. So, if you're seriously considering moving to the Philippines or planning to stay here long term, here are some important downsides you should know before making that leap. Sickness. Your body will be tested. This is my first point, and it's a really important one, guys, because most people who come to the Philippines will get sick at some point. You're entering a new country with a completely different climate, food, bacteria, and even illnesses that you might never have encountered before. And so you'll often hear people joking about bringing a stash of Imodium with them when they visit the Philippines. And honestly, it's not a joke. It's solid advice because at some point during your stay, there's a very good chance you'll get hit with a bout of diarrhea. And trust me, guys, you do not want to be caught off guard by that. Now, if you're staying long term like me, your body does start to adjust over time. You might build a bit of resistance, especially as you get more used to local food, water sources, and just generally living in a different environment. And when that happens, it's easy to start thinking, I'm fine now. I've adapted. But guys, let me give you a reality check because no matter how long you live here, you have to stay careful. Don't get overconfident. Don't assume you're immune. Because just when you least expect it, bam, food poisoning, stomach flu, or something else can knock you off your feet entirely. Now, I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying it to prepare you. Stock up on basic meds. Avoid street food when it doesn't look good. Be smart about your water sources. And most importantly, listen to your body. And I'm speaking from experience here. And if it can happen to me after living here for years, then it can happen to anyone. The next point, guys, is infrastructure. Not everything works how you expect. And this is a big one for me. And honestly, it can be one of the most frustrating aspects of living in the Philippines as an expat, especially if you're staying in the rural provinces. Now, let's be real for a moment. While the Philippines is definitely developing, yes, there are new roads, malls, bridges, condos, restaurants, and lots more things popping up everywhere. But there's still a long way to go when it comes to infrastructure, especially in the province. And if you're used to systems that run like clockwork, like I was back in the UK, then that can be a real shock to the system. I grew up in a place where virtually everything was guaranteed. You flip a switch, there's power. You turn on a tap, there's clean drinking water. Garbage is collected every week. Internet is fast. Everything works. Except in Birmingham, of course. In the UK, I think I only experienced about 3 power outages in my entire life. And that was usually during a severe storm or extreme weather. But here in the Philippines, especially during the hot summer months, brownouts, that's what they call power outages here. Brownouts are just a part of life. And I'm not exaggerating. I've lost track of how many times the power has gone out over the last 3 years. Sometimes it's a scheduled outage. Sometimes there's no warning at all. So you could be cooking, working, filming, or just trying to get some sleep and then bam, no electricity. And if you're doing remote work, this can be a massive inconvenience. Imagine you're in the middle of an important email or you're just about to hit send on a project and the power cuts. No warning, no explanation. It's just gone, even for a couple of minutes. Of course, you can invest in backup solutions like a generator, power banks, solar lights, or even UPS systems for your devices, but that's an added cost and something you probably never had to think about back home. Now, electricity isn't the only issue when we talk about infrastructure. Let's take garbage disposal, for example. In the UK, we have our weekly bin collection days. You just leave your bins out and a truck comes by and picks it up. It's that simple. But here in the province, we don't have that. There's no regular garbage collection system. So what do? Well, we burn it. That's the reality, but it's not ideal. And breathing in all that smoke definitely isn't healthy. But it doesn't stop there, because flooding can happen in areas that don't have proper drainage. Internet can be painfully slow unless you invest in something like Starlink, and even mobile data is unreliable in certain places. To be fair, these issues aren't as bad in the cities. Places like Iloilo, Cebu, and Manila, they tend to have more stable stabilities, but even then, it's not always consistent. So, if you're planning to move here full time, especially in the province, then you need to lower your expectations when it comes to infrastructure. Be flexible, be patient, and most importantly, be prepared. So my next point, guys, is the emotional cost of what you leave behind. And this is something that you really need to think about if you're considering moving to the Philippines long term. To be honest, I didn't think too deeply about it before I moved here. Even in the first 6 months of living here, I thought I'd be okay. I assumed calling or messaging my family now and then would be enough to stay connected. But over time, it hits you. Living so far away from the UK comes with challenges you don't expect. Sure, I can call my family every week, and I do, but it's not the same as being there in person. You miss out on the little things, family gatherings, birthdays, seeing your niece and nephew get a little bit older. And then there are the big moments, the really difficult ones. Earlier this year, one of my grandmothers passed away, and I couldn't get home for the funeral. I couldn't be there to sit with my family, to say goodbye properly. Sure, I was able to watch a live stream of the funeral, but it's not quite the same as being there. And recently, my other grandmother was diagnosed with dementia. When I visited the UK last year, I could already see signs of decline. But over the past few months, things have gotten much worse. Every time I talk to my mum, I worry that the next time I go home, my grandmother might not remember who I am. And so that's the kind of emotional cost you don't always see in vlogs or expat videos. And I'm not sharing this for sympathy. I'm sharing it because it's real. These are the things that you give up when you decide to live abroad. You're not just leaving your country. You're stepping away from your family life. You're leaving behind your support system. So, if you're thinking of moving here long term, be prepared. Missing home is more than just craving your favorite food or going for a walk in your favorite spot. It's also a deep emotional gap that can sneak up on you. But here's what helps. Stay connected as often as you can. Make time to visit home, even if it's just a couple of years. And build a new support system in the Philippines with people that you can trust, because the reality is that you'll need people around you when the hard moments come. And my final point is this: natural disasters, living with unpredictability. This is something you absolutely need to expect and prepare for when you move to the Philippines, because at some point you will experience a typhoon, an earthquake, flooding, or something else entirely. Honestly, there are a million natural events that can happen when you live in this part of the world. And if you're not used to that, it can be overwhelming. You know, I grew up in a small town in the UK where nothing much ever happened. Maybe a tree got knocked down by a storm or the odd house caught fire. But for the most part, it was safe, peaceful, predictable. So I lived a very sheltered life in that sense, within my comfort zone, free from any real disasters. But living in the Philippines completely changed that. For example, in 2022, we had just returned from Baguio City when we found out it had been hit by an earthquake. Roads were damaged, landslides had blocked off certain areas, and we realized just how close we had been to something serious. In 2023, we were hit by severe flooding after a typhoon. Our house flooded so badly that we had to evacuate and stay in the nearby barangay hall. We watched the water rise around our home, something I had never experienced before in my life. And then in 2024, Mount Canlaon erupted. Thankfully, we weren't living near the volcano itself, but the wind carried volcanic ash over to our island. It wasn't thick, but just knowing it came from an eruption not too far away was enough to leave us feeling uneasy. And to be honest, guys, the flooding also left me a little bit traumatized. Now, every time there's heavy rain, I find myself anxiously looking out the window, checking the ground, watching the water levels, because it's something that stays with you. So, if you're thinking about living here, especially in the provinces, you need to be mentally and practically prepared for things like emergency evacuations, power outages during typhoons, disruptions to water and internet, roads being blocked or impassable due to landslides, and the emotional cost of uncertainty. So, it's not all sunshine and beaches. The country is stunningly beautiful. The locals are friendly, but it's also a place that can be unpredictable. It's a place where disaster can hit at any moment. So have a go bag ready. Stay alert during typhoon season and know where your local evacuation point is. These things are part of life here, and the more prepared you are, the better you'll handle it. So, there you have it. 4 honest downsides from an expat of living in the Philippines. That's what every expat should know before making the move. Now, don't get me wrong. I love this country. I met my wife here. And despite the challenges, the place has given me experiences and relationships that I wouldn't trade for anything. But if you're only seeing the paradise side of life in the Philippines, you're not seeing the full picture. Yes, there's so much beauty here, but there are also moments of discomfort, unpredictability, and emotional strain. And that's okay, because that's life. And so my goal with this video is not to scare you off, but it's to prepare you, so that if you do decide to live here long term, you're stepping in with your eyes wide open. If you've experienced any of these challenges yourself, or if you're planning to move and have questions, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And if you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with anyone who's thinking of making the move to the Philippines. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.